Welcome back everyone. So something a little bit different today. I'm out and about in Brighton on the Ducati Multistrada V4S. It's the only bike that I own at the moment. Usually I've got at least one or two hanging around, but at the moment I've just got the Ducati V4S. Going to take you for a little look around Brighton today in this beautiful sunny Monday bank holiday afternoon, whilst we have a little chat about a few things. A lot of people often ask me about my bikes, so here we are. I hope the camera position is okay. I think it could be doing with being a little bit higher, but unfortunately it's the only place that I can fit the GoPro safely on this particular crash helmet, so hopefully it's good enough in wide view. Now, we've lived in Brighton for coming up 6 years, and I've got to say I've really enjoyed it. However, speaking to the wife, and you know what it's like, happy wife, happy life. I think the time may have come for us to consider moving on. Quite where, we're not sure yet, but as much as I like living in Brighton, and I like the atmosphere, the ambience, whatever you want to call it, more than anything I love the fact that there are so many restaurants to choose from. And in general it's a really sort of vibrant, buzzing city. But of course that's the plus side. The downside to Brighton, that it is a very, very hard left city. And I mean a hard left city. Probably the most left-wing city in the country. Which means that if you even reveal yourself to be remotely right of Stalin, you're a fascist. And having quite a high profile, you know, a number of people in town, when I go into town, will recognise me. The vast majority, I would say, are very friendly, but there was an incident just recently when that wasn't the case. Didn't involve myself, it involved a member of my family, a female member of my family, that was very disturbing. And yeah, we're just starting to wonder if, you know, if in our retirement, as it were, that Brighton is the right place for us to be. So we are considering moving along after 6 years, which is a little bit sad, because to be honest with you, I thought that this would be me probably for the rest of my life, but with the political situation the way it is, maybe not. At least not whilst we've got a Labour government in power, and that everyone on the left feels empowered or emboldened enough to come and stick one on you just because you don't agree with them. And guess who would get the blame? Yeah. So it's looking like it's going to be bye-bye Brighton before too long. Possibly even before the end of the year. But I will miss it in many ways. Wherever we go, I'd want to be down by the coast. I love living by the sea. You just can't beat it. So what has been my experience of living in Brighton? Well, I've got to say, up until recently, it's been a very pleasant one. But if you want to walk around town without fear of being spat upon or worse, you basically need to be a bit of a commie, because those left-wing students that we have in Brighton are about as friendly as a tumour. And the older ones can be quite violent too when the mood takes them. But there you go. Apart from that, it's a nice place to live. So the V4S, the Multistrada V4S, which I'm on now, is currently my only bike, as I just mentioned. Quite often I've got two, sometimes I've even got three, but I haven't had three for a while. Just recently I had the KTM 790 Adventure alongside in my garage a Harley Davidson Sport Glide. Both very nice bikes, but of all the bikes I've ever owned in my life, and there has been a lot of them, and I mean a lot, too many probably, well that's what Mrs T would tell you anyway. Of all the bikes I've ever owned in my life, the best bike I've ever owned is probably the one that I'm sitting on now. Almost 1300cc of V4S. It's classified as an adventure bike. Really, I'd call it a crossover between a sports bike and an adventure bike. It's very, very comfortable. Has just about every single electronic aid on it you can imagine, including front and rear radar, which means you can set the bike on cruise control and it will keep the distance between you and the car in front. And when something's coming up behind you, I've got lights on the wing mirrors here. They will flash and tell you that someone is approaching, so that you know you've got someone coming up on your inside. There you go, there's one of them alight now. I had travelled down to Plymouth on this bike with a friend of mine who was on the same bike. Plymouth's a long journey from Brighton, but yeah, it was no problem at all, even for someone that's getting on a bit. I mean, if you were 20 years younger than me, Plymouth would feel like a nip down the road on a bike like this. Top speed, I don't know, I've never ever challenged it, but I think it's about 150 mile an hour, there or thereabouts, and it gets there pretty damn quick as well. So we're down by the seafront. That's the old ship hotel over there on the right, where I've had a few meetings with some friends in the past from my watch days. Talking about watch days and watches and crime and prison sentences, etc. Did you see recently that someone that had been convicted of stealing a £50,000 watch from someone's wrist in London, and having been the victim of a street robbery, I can tell you it's pretty damn gut-wrenching, and it leaves a long and lasting nasty impression in your mind. Someone was arrested, taken to court recently for a £50,000 street robbery. Wasn't his first offence, had been caught before. Suspended sentence. Walked free from the court. Can you believe it? I spent years battling and fighting against watch crime, and in the end I pretty much gave up, because you're just fighting the losing battle. You know, and it's not even the police's fault in many occasions. You know, I've got friends that used to be in the flying squad, one or two that still are, and they get the right needle when they put so much effort, so much work, so many hours into catching these criminals. They go to court and then they're, well, basically let off. I mean, can you blame them for not having the enthusiasm to do the job properly in the first place? But be careful if you post anything on Twitter, because they'll be coming for you. Absolute insanity, isn't it? Just absolute insanity. Let's go around the back here, shall we? So this is the seafront along Brighton. Brighton's probably one of the most popular, probably one of the best coastal resorts in the south of England. I mean, if you go down further to the southwest, you know, in places like Cornwall, you'll find better, certainly you'll find better smaller towns that are probably cleaner and prettier, but you won't find many that are as vibrant as Brighton or as lively. Brighton is a very, very lively place. We're sort of up towards the Hove end now. As you can see, there's restaurants everywhere. Every other business is a restaurant, it seems. I think they say that you can eat out every night in a different restaurant for 2 years in Brighton, which is pretty crazy. So we are now heading up towards Hove. You know, we often talk about multiculturalism on this channel. We often talk about, you know, different cultures and different ways of life. And to be fair, somewhere like Hove is a great advert for it. I mean, all the things that are good about multiculturalism are visible in Brighton in many ways. All the different restaurants, all the different shops, beauticians, barbers, you know, you name it. Continental grocery stores. Immigrants have brought a lot of good things to Brighton in many ways. Lots of Middle Eastern restaurants. You know, you couldn't wish to live in a more vibrant city. It's just, for me, there's two problems with Brighton that I don't appreciate. One is its extreme hard left political stance, and the other is the drug problem. A massive drug problem in Brighton. But I guess that's pretty much the same wherever you go these days. The architecture around here, a lot of it is sort of Edwardian, Victorian. Very expensive. I mean, these properties that you're looking at on the left hand side now, these were once all single properties. You know, one person that would have been one house at one time. Now they're all apartments. I don't even know how much one of those will be. I mean, one of the apartments will probably be, I don't know, 750,000. If you wanted to buy the entire building, a few million. Great place to see plenty of bikes, Brighton, that's for sure. Now, I'm not going to do it, guys, but if I was to hit that throttle now, the front end of this bike would come up. Fortunately, or unfortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, I'm a bit past all that. Nice Harley in front of me. You can't beat a Harley in the summer. If I was going to die and go to heaven and take one motorbike with me, it would be a Harley, as long as it was warm. Because the problem with the bikes that are naked, as they say, they call them naked bikes when there's no protection, is that in the winter it's cold and that wind is hard work. I mean, on this I've got all this protection in front of me, the screen comes up, you can't see down there, but my knees are pretty protected as well. So it's a great bike for all year round. But if the weather was like this 300 days of the year, then I probably would just own a Harley, possibly. There's the 360i, been up there once. I can't honestly say that I'd bother doing it again, but I suppose it's something you got to do if you live here, innit? I would say that Brighton's got a bit scruffier since we've lived here in the 6 years that we've been here. I think it was a bit cleaner 6 years back. I have noticed a slight downtrend in the amount of rubbish that you find in the streets, but it's not too bad, to be fair. You know, it's not something that you'd highlight necessarily or moan about. I'll tell you, you are a bloody nightmare, and I've got one behind me now with these Deliveroo riders on their scooters. They're always on their phone. They come from just about every direction you can imagine, and some you can't. How they manage to stay alive, I'm not quite sure, to be honest, but they do. And of course you got the dreaded bicycles, which are even worse. They are absolutely hell in Brighton. God knows how many people get hit by cyclists every week here. They zoom up and down the pavements like it's one big bike lane. And they are a bit of a menace. So let's take you up round by the Brighton Palace. There is another name for it, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. I think I've mentioned this before. I'm going to take you to a place now that was earmarked by Hitler as his residence when Germany managed to invade the UK back in the day. Thankfully he never got round to it. And now a lump with Keir Starmer. Jesus. So if I was in a rush, I would be threading my way through the traffic here, but there's no rush today, just a nice, quiet, chilled, relaxed ride out. It's good to get back doing some live streams, and I'll be back doing some more soon as well. Get Richard back on, and Danny from Spain, such a good lad, Danny. And obviously some other guests as well. Got a few lined up down the line. Going to be doing another podcast with Liam Tufts soon as well. Got another podcast with Liam lined up. I think that's going to be a cracker. If you haven't seen Liam's channel, Liam Tufts, go and have a look. He's just done a brilliant podcast with Peter Blexley. Two guys that I've got a lot of respect for, and very pleased to be able to call friends. So drop over there to Liam's channel and subscribe. Catch up with a podcast that I did with him about a year ago, and the next one that'll be coming soon. Brighton Pavilion, that's what it's called. It's just come into my mind. The Pavilion, it's coming up in a minute on the left. Everything's on the left in Brighton. So that's the high street up there. Over to my left. Kent Town over to the right. You can't beat riding a bike though in the summer. Just absolutely love it. So what's the best bike I've ever owned? Well, I've said that this is probably the best bike that I've ever owned. And I've had all sorts of bikes. If I was going to travel around Europe or around the world, what bike would I have taken, or what bike would I like to take? There's the Pavilion. Well, it would probably be the BMW R1250 GS or the GS Adventure. Not because it's a better bike than the one I'm riding now, because I prefer this bike to the BMW version. But if I was going to travel across Europe or across the world, I'd probably take a BMW, because I don't see you finding many people being able to potentially put a Ducati right in Outer Mongolia, whereas you're always going to find someone that can fix a BMW. But there's not a lot to choose between them. As you know, as far as touring bikes are concerned, there's not a lot to choose between them. I'd say this is more fun, this is faster, it's lighter, it's more nimble. It's a bit more sport bikey than the BMW 1250 GS or the GSA, which is, if you don't know what that is, it's the big BMW adventure tourer that you see so many of, BMW's best-selling bike. I'd still personally rather the Ducati, but from a straightforward reliability viewpoint, I'd probably take the BMW. For riding around town like I'm doing now, the best bike I've ever owned, oh, I don't know, probably a Harley Davidson. Just cruising around, laid back, relaxed riding in the city. But as an all-rounder, as an absolute all-rounder, what I'm riding now, that's going to take some beating. This is not a cheap bike, by the way. I bought this from a friend of mine who'd done about 1,000 miles on it. I think this bike, as it stands, of all the extras, and it has got just about everything that you could want on this bike. It's about 25,000 quid, I think he paid for it. So it's not a cheap bike. But you know what, these days, if you're into your bikes, you haven't got to spend that amount of money to get something that's really nice. They don't really make a bad bike anymore. All bikes, all the modern day bikes are pretty good, pretty reliable. If you're going to commute, you might even want to think about an electric version. And they're not for me personally. I like the sound of an engine, but some people prefer the fact that they haven't got to put any money in the tank. Little shortcut here into the high street. Now just here, where we're coming up to right here, a couple of weeks back, you remember I put a video up of a young man riding on the back of a bus, holding on to the back of a bus that was travelling right where I am coming up now, holding a massive machete in his hand, smashing the back of the bus with the machete. Right here. In broad daylight. A couple of nights back in Brighton there was, I believe there was some kind of chemical attack involving, I think, 3 people I read. Don't know what the outcome of that is, whether there's been any arrests or not sure. Right, let's head up towards Brighton really. So I'm going to get around this bus. It's probably not going to like it, but tough. There you go. Let's get onto a road where I can get it over 30 mile an hour. So if you travel into Brighton from pretty much anywhere really, if you're coming from the north at least, which obviously most people will be, as you come into Brighton, I will show you the first thing that you will see, and this will be, as you head in towards Brighton for the first time, this will be your view with the pier right in front of you. Now if you want to go into the city again, you turn right. I'm actually going to head left. That's Brighton Marina across the way there. I'm going to head left up towards Brighton Marina, which you've seen me film from, of course, in the past. Sea's quite choppy today. I think some of my best memories of living in Brighton down by the sea is when I've had a boat. I've had a few boats as well in my time. If you look back at some of my older videos, I'm sure I've still got some videos up showing one or two of my boats. I've had a magnificent time out there on the water. I love it. You just got to be careful. Right guys, let's see if we can open this up a little bit, shall we? Another Harley. If you're a bike owner, let me know what you've got in the comment section below. If you're not a bike owner, let me know if you'd like to be a bike owner, and if so, what would you own? This bike of course has the quick shifter on it, which means that you can change gear without using the clutch. Once we get up to the top of this bit of road here, we get out of the 30 mile an hour zone. Mind you, on a bike like this, to be honest with you, it doesn't really matter what zone you're in, you can always go beyond it. You just have to be disciplined and be careful. You know, one little blip of the throttle and you can find yourself outside of the law. Very easy to do. There's the marina over there on the right. You always have to be prepared for the unexpected on a bike. I was travelling down here a few weeks back and there was a car, just take this car in front for an example, suddenly stopped in the middle of the road, and there was cars parked next to it on the left, and I couldn't quite understand why he'd stopped in the middle of the road, and I sort of was going to overtake him, and something inside me just said, hold on a minute, he's got to have stopped for a reason. So I slowed down, and blow me, out from in front of this car came someone on a wheelchair, completely out of sight until they came over this side of the car. And if I'd have accelerated then and gone to overtake, that could have been nasty. Right guys, I hope you've enjoyed that today, little ride around Brighton that we might be leaving. I'll keep you up to date with that. I'm going to go get myself a drink and enjoy the rest of me ride out. As always, thanks for watching, really appreciate it. Let me know what you think of the slightly different content. You know, want to bring you something a little bit more positive now and again. Keep, you know, doom and gloom all the time. Bring you something that's a little bit more upbeat. Thanks for watching, really appreciate it. I'll speak to you soon.